if somebody comes to me and says, I want open relationship, that's an opening sentence. This is not point. There's a whole conversation afterwards. We talk about the reasons, and often it's completely different outcomes. So they think they come in for opening up relationship, but actually when we dig deeper, it's something else that they need.
Hi, I'm Mikkel Weber, founder of House of Peregrine. This show is for life abroad and those crafting their life story with intention. I bring you conversations about international finances, meaning-making, relationships, and parenting. I bring on the experts to help you on your journey so that you can connect more deeply with yourself, the people around you, and the place you currently call home. Find out more at houseofperegrine.com, where you can find exclusive guides, products, software, and a community that's waiting to welcome you. Welcome to House of Peregrine. Betrayal isn't only cheating. It can be that someone stops investing in the relationship and doesn't name it. Living abroad shifts everything: identity, belonging, even love. Can you explore other relationships and stay ethical? Opening a shaky relationship won't fix it. It magnifies it. Ethical takes more, not less energy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the House of Peregrine podcast. Today, we're talking about ethical non-monogamy abroad, a topic that's more common than people admit, and often a lot more nuanced than the stereotypes. Because when you live internationally, you're not just changing your address, you're changing your context, community, identity, routines, even the rules you grew up with. Sometimes that brings up big questions for couples. How do we keep growing without losing each other? What do we do when we find that we can't find each other? My guest today is Victoria Onken, a relationship coach based in Amsterdam who specializes in supporting individuals and couples exploring ethical non-monogamy and open relationships with guidance that's clear, compassionate, and practical. What I love about Victoria's work is she's not here to sell non-monogamy as a cure-all. In fact, she jokes she often tries to talk people out of it because it's a really intense way of relating, especially when doing it ethically, and it requires more trust, more communication, and more responsibility. If a relationship is already unstable, opening it usually does not fix that. It amplifies what's already there, according to Victoria. She also offers a reframe I haven't stopped thinking about. Betrayal can come in many forms. It's not only cheating. Betrayal can also be when one partner stops investing in the relationship, disengages, or leaves the emotional labor to the other person. We're also going to talk about why being abroad can make exploration feel sometimes easier or make it harder because you can be more secretive, and why the entire point of ethical non-monogamy is clear agreements, real consent, and actually honoring your partner and your relationship. So whether you're monogamous, curious, already open, or just trying to understand what this really looks like in real life abroad, this conversation is for you. Victoria, welcome to the show. I am so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start by just getting some things out of the way. This is a very triggering topic. It can be. I know you know that from your social media account, but non-monogamy is pretty common. Ethical non-monogamy is what we're talking about. So can you describe the difference?
Yeah. So of course, when we think about, so first of all, the term ethical non-monogamy, I mean, as if we hold monogamy to an ethical standard, which is, as we know, is not true. I don't have statistics, but we all know what percentage of people actually commit adultery in the relationships. So the idea of ethical non-monogamy is very broad. It's an umbrella term. So it can start from couple actually just talking about it. That's already kind of the idea of having someone else in the relationship. That's already somewhat a step, and for some it's enough.
Right. So if I could say it simply, and maybe you can correct me, non-monogamy means a lot of things. So that's cheating all the way to ethical. But what we're going to talk about is how to do this in an ethical way, which means that you are doing it with clear agreements with your partner. Consensually. Yes. So when someone cheats and their spouse doesn't know, that's not ethical non-monogamy. That's just non-monogamy.
That's non-monogamy, very unethical, and it's not because it's not consensual. So the only difference is that it's consensual. So which means that both parties talk about intentions and desires and agreements. So it feels safe. And when you cheat, when you have some sort of relationship without the other person knowing, it's a break of trust. And relationships are all about trust, whether it's business relationship or a romantic relationship. And I think, therefore, it's more a real way of relating and honest, however, more complicated way of relating.
Right. So I can imagine, and we'll get into your story. I want people to hear your story because it's really, really good. But I can imagine it's in the news a lot, ethical non-monogamy. And I know in my life abroad for 10 years, it's even more prominent when you, maybe not more prominent, but it is very prominent when you live abroad to find different parts of yourself or want to. And so I can imagine there's a lot of couples who come to you saying, we're bored with each other, or individuals, I'm bored with my relationship. I want to open it up. What do you tell these people? Like, because they've heard it or they think it's going to bring spice back into their relationship somehow. What do you tell people when they come to you? How do you guide them?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure that their intentions are solid. So it's not a way of fixing something. It's not a way of putting a plaster on a gushing wound. As to say that they are okay as a couple, they know how to communicate, they are honest with each other, and most importantly, it's not just a wish of one partner. Because what can happen often is that one partner really wants it, and then the other one is basically coerced into it with the idea of if they don't, they will lose the spouse. And that's a very, very unhealthy way to begin something like that.
Yeah. And is it usually, do you see more men or more women coming, wanting
So,
to
yeah.
open a relationship?
So it's a lot of men, some women, many men. And what men don't realize, and this is a little nugget for any woman who is approached by the husband, statistically proven that it's way easier for women to get a date. So many times what happens is the couple opens relationship because of the husband's desires, but the men find it very difficult to get a date and women don't. Women have a lot of success in online dating, and it's tied to many, many factors, but that's the bottom line. And men are often surprised. And many, many times when partners want to open the relationship, they fail to really, really imagine their partner also going on a date, also having a relationship. They just at that moment think about themselves, which is lovely. You know, you think, I can have all this newness, and maybe they already have somebody in mind. That also can happen. That's also very important to make sure that they don't just see this as an ethical way of cheating, as kind of a whole pass to get off with somebody they already have an eye on. However, they can experience feelings towards someone and say, hey, I noticed this in me. This is something that I wish to explore. How do you feel? But a couple should be able to handle really visualizing both partners having an extra relationship and not just one.
Yeah. And I think that that's such an important distinction you made. This isn't an excuse to cheat. Like that's not what you're helping people to do well. And so why don't we get into your story a little bit? Because you're a peregrine. You've lived in many places around the world and you have a beautiful relationship with your husband. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey?
Right. So I was born in Russia in a very conservative, intellectual family of engineers. So I was very much exposed to the idea of marriage to a very specific partner equals to your success. And that was drummed into me. There was no alternative models of relationships. You were either single or married. There was not even a possibility, I think, of living together at that time. So when I was 12, we immigrated to Israel, and also another conservative country where family is everything. So everyone has 3 to 4 children. Again, very much husband and wife. There's no alternatives. So when we grow up with models of relationships like this, we kind of accept that, you know, there's no other way. So when I was together with my husband of back then 17 years, I believe, together, we were kind of thinking about our life, and we really loved each other and wanted to be together. But we also wanted to experience a little bit different things. So he wanted to have, for example, more children, where I wanted to have more interactions just culturally, just do different things where he might not enjoy. You know, for years, I begged him to go take salsa dancing with me, but it's just not his thing. So I started to read about, and so did he, we started to read about different models of relationships.
Yeah, because you loved each other still. You
We
didn't
loved
want
each other
to.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually offered to, so I said to him first, because I didn't know any better. I said, we should separate because I want you to have a family and more children. And I want that for you. I love you so much. And so we went to couple therapy and we both agreed that we actually love each other so much and we don't want to break up. And so then we started to look into different models of relationships. Actually, it was my husband who started to read. I didn't even hear, I didn't even know there was like a whole buffet of options, right? Yeah. So I just thought, this is something that we have to live with. And of course, the passion doesn't stay after 17 years. Nobody expects it to. But does that mean that, that's it? Or you only do certain things together because that's how you are? And is that it? So I was thinking philosophically, we live longer as humans. The more maybe the model that used to work previously just is not for everyone. Because I'm such a versatile person with so many different hobbies, it makes sense that, I would also be attracted to different people. And being attracted to different people to me doesn't mean that I cannot have a very, very deep also relationship. It's not mutually exclusive. And so after reading all the books, we decided to open up our relationship and we made all the mistakes under the sun. We didn't have anyone to guide us. Sadly, we didn't know there were coaches or therapists that specializes in this kind of relationships. So we made all the mistakes, but luckily we went through them. And we also realized that relationships do shift. Sometimes over the years, when you're together for a really long time, your relationships may look different. People may go through different periods of diseases, or they may change as people, or they want to maybe change the way they live. And loving somebody is also supporting them in that, and not selfishly holding on to the version that you think suits you. You actually support your partner in the growth that they need, and they support you in the growth that you need,
Yeah.
ideally.
Ideally. Yeah, ideally. And that's a very tall order and something that I think is emerging in relationships more over time. Our parents, I was born in the US. That was the model I was given too, was you just stick it out. You just stick it out. And that's admirable, but it's maybe not the only option. And so I think that this happens to everyone. And then also when you move abroad, and I don't know, did you and your partner move abroad together or did you meet here?
We met here, but the problems, it's a similar issues that you see, that you exposed to completely different culture. So everything is quite more open here, and you think, oh, this is interesting. Is this something for me? And how would my parents react, or how would my community react to this? Or, oh, it's a new world, right?
It's
So,
a, it's a new
uh,
world, but also what happens sometimes is people move abroad for one person's job and that person's growing this way and the other person's learning the language and you're just evolving so fast if you let yourself. And so I try and encourage people to really have these conversations like, we're going to change. Do we want to do it together? That means some scary conversations potentially. One of them is like, what happens if we get divorced? Like, we need to come up with that before we go because the incidence of couples abroad who divorce is much higher than the average, which is already high. And that doesn't have to be the only option. But I really love people to have this skill of having open conversations that maybe you can get by without if you stay in your home country, maybe. And people are still practicing ethical non-monogamy uh, in their home countries. That's not what I'm saying. But what I want to get our audience to is slowly bringing these skills to bear because ethical non-monogamy is one thing you might need to be talking about, but there's so much that you need to bring communication skills to because there's just a lot more you're dealing with as a couple if you are a couple abroad. And so that is, I think it's beautiful that we get the chance to change again at living in another country because I always say there's like life stages if you stay in your home country that you kind of follow. And I think each country you go to is an additional life stage where you learn more about yourself, you learn more about your partner, your kids, your paradigms. And relationship is one of those, I think. And so I love that you have this experience. And it was after you were together a really long time. And like you said, the paradigm is either get divorced if you're not happy now, or just stick it out and be resentful of each other and what you're missing out on. And that, like you said, it was salsa dancing. You didn't want to, it wasn't that you wanted to sleep with other people. You wanted to go salsa dancing. That's
Also, so I have a friend, I have a friend who literally came from a very conservative country, and she just realized she met her husband fairly young, and he was probably one of the only people she slept with. So yeah, she realized that she is in a very open-minded country, and she was wondering, what it would be like to be with other men. And so for her, it was purely sexual, and for her husband, it suited it because when you start having relationship with someone else, that's very threatening for people. Funny enough, a lot of people are okay with just sex.
uh,
But when it starts, the idea of emotions and you're emotionally attached to somebody else and not just to your partner, that's, I think, where the jealousy, the possessiveness, the insecurities lie. And that's why that's the biggest mistake. People think, oh, we're just going to open the relationship and I went through this and I'm not jealous. I'm fine. But the second people get attached, yeah, it's a big surprise.
it's a big surprise. And so
Yeah.
when an individual or a couple comes to you, tell me the process you walk them through a little bit. They say, it doesn't matter almost if it's an individual or a couple coming
Mhm.
to you. The process is probably similar. How do you walk them
Yeah.
through that? What are the, you're giving them ethics, but also what you never had, which is someone to kind of help you prepare.
Support.
Yeah.
Yeah, support. In retrospect, what we did was crazy because you don't go to the gym, if you've never been to the gym and start like lifting weights, right? You do ask like, how does equipment work? What is the right weight for me? What is the trajectory? So I think it's important uh, to have support in something like this, whether with books or with therapy. But so usually when people come to me, I first make sure that they know how to communicate. It's a basic communication skills where you're able to listen to your partner without, jumping in, that you're able to communicate your own emotions, that you can articulate your needs. Because if somebody comes to me and says, I want open relationship, that's an opening sentence. This is not point. There's a whole conversation afterwards. We talk about the reasons, and often it's completely different outcomes. So they think they come in for opening up relationship, but actually when we dig deeper, it's something else that they need.
Wow.
So first, we establish talking and communications. And then afterwards, we start kind of drafting basic picture of what it would look like. We start like role playing or kind of making little movies in our head, like what would it look like? And then each person kind of tries to feel with the body when the other person talks, says, imagine we're a couple and I say, I will go on a date with a man and I would love to go dancing and I would love for him to kiss me. And in the same time, partner needs to feel what kind of feelings arise when they kind of play that movie in their head. This prevents many triggers. Next thing we do before opening up the relationship is we make a list of kind of, I don't want to call it rules, but more agreements. And this kind of agreements is not set in stone, but it's something that can be discussed because not everything is going to work. But all this gives safety in a very stormy sea. So you're kind of opening into big wide ocean and you want to have a bit of like sort of real raft that supports you. And I also teach people to check in with their partners, actually to invest in a quality time within a couple. Because if you don't do that and you outsource all your free and fun time to others, your
Yeah.
relationship will suffer.
Yeah. And that is, I think, it's wisdom for any relationship. But what I've learned through talking to people about this and friends who are in this type of relationship configuration is that these are just basic relationship skills. And then when you don't have those down pat and you try and open your relationship, it's just going to explode. Like, it's just going to cause a lot of damage. So, yeah, your relationship might end, but you might actually cause damage to your partner. Like, you might actually cause emotional damage. It's similar to cheating, similar to if you just had an affair. And so we know that we have a tremendous effect on each other when we're partnered, not only financially, not only logistics, but deeply in our bodies, we are
Yeah.
connected. And
Yeah.
so I love what you're doing because it's providing this wisdom, but also I think when we spoke earlier, you said you try and talk, you were kidding, but you said, I try and talk people out of it. Like you said, there's often other needs that are actually the problem or
Yeah.
the problem
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
leading to this, what they think is a desire. So what are some of the other needs that you think are leading people to think they want to try non-monogamy or have an
Well,
affair?
there's only two categories really, and it's in case a couple is doing well and in case a couple is not doing well. It's the same reasons. It's either sexual, when people just want variety because they've been together for too long, and it is normal, and that's also main reason why people cheat.
Mm.
Second reason is emotional. So people craving for other emotional connections. They feel like they have so much love to give, and they just want to have richer life. And it's also this idea, of, I have, if you have three children, you don't love one more than another, and you have so much love to give. You would have love to give to five children, I'm sure. And so it's kind of more philosophical views on life. Also thinking like, okay, is this it? Am I supposed to just be now with one person and I cannot get close to another? For some people, ethical non-monogamy has nothing to do with sex. In fact, they just want to have connections and they are not sexual. So it could be a very, very close friend that you can hold hands with or cuddle, but not in a sexual way. But for many partners, it's not causes too much jealousy already.
Yeah. That's such a good
It's
point.
yeah,
I love that you are allowing for this extra layer because it doesn't have to be about sex. And marriage is not just about sex, it's about a lot of things. And so, yes, it could be that. But also, it could be for one person that hugging and hanging out all night until midnight or 2 in the morning is fine for one partner. And then for their partner, it's cheating.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's really important conversations that you're probably just not having because you're both limiting yourself. So yes, of course, it can go all the way up to having multiple romantic relationships. There's such a spectrum, and I love that you are allowing for all of it because what we hear is the one end of the spectrum. And so I love that you've allowed for this because I have friends that don't even feel like they can go out with friends because they will make their partner feel uncomfortable.
Exactly. So what we're actually talking about is priorities. So what you're basically saying that I love us, I love our partnership, but I also want to prioritize other things. And that could be friendships. And that can already be painful to a person because they think, if you have free time, shouldn't you prioritize me? And jealousy is not only a sexual thing, right? Jealousy is can be at work, can be in friendships. So jealousy is basically, and people stop at jealousy. People say, I'm jealous. And that's it. And that's accepted in our society, but we never look further. And what I do in my coaching that was really, really helpful for people is to look, why am I jealous? Why is my partner jealous? What are the underlying issues that bother me? Am I jealous of another woman? Am I jealous of a figure? Am I jealous of a career? Am I jealous, whether it's a partner of my partner or not, or a friend or someone I see on the street? Because that lets us know about ourselves and our needs. And I'm thinking, okay, I like her figure. Maybe I should take care more of my own. Maybe I should go to sport. Maybe I should, it gives me indications of like, hey, I'm jealous of my partner spending time with friends. Why? Maybe because I need some quality time with him. So instead of saying, I don't like it, I'm jealous, you say, hey, I noticed that if this evokes feelings in me that I don't like, and that makes me think that I actually would like us to spend some quality time together. What do you think about that? So you don't forbid or you don't say don't do it, but you just talk about your needs, not about what your partner is doing wrong.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And I think that that is a skill that you need even if you don't open
Yeah,
your relationship. It's like,
absolutely.
I'm feeling this way. It's because our relationship is lacking. I've heard a lot of people talking about, like, I feel like I want to have an affair. We need to fix something in our relationship. and then we can talk about it. Like, we need to solidify our bond before we can and get
Exactly,
what.
exactly. And if afterwards you still want to do it, then it's another conversation. And again, it's not for everyone. I believe, people are different. We have so many people in the world. And of course, we have only one model of relationship and vastly in the developed world. Of course, it's not going to fit everyone. And then also what is open relationship? And the second you say something, people just assume one thing. It goes from swingers to complete polyamory. But again, it could be just, it's all about the conversation that people don't want to have because it opens like a can of worms. But if you have it, it may be completely different thing that what you imagine, or it could be just, having, beer with the guys, or having a trip with your girlfriends, a yoga retreat or something where you just need to take time for yourself, or you want to spend time on your friends actively on those connections. But
Yeah. So that conversation starts with, I'm feeling this, and then trying to get that need met. I love that spectrum. So now let's say you've walked the couple through, they're good communicators, they love each other, they've decided they want to remain married or partnered, don't have to be
yeah,
married. They
yeah.
want to stay in the container that they have created and then open it to other relationships. One person or both people can, if the agreements are solid, you have kind of worked with the individual or couple. What are some of the ways that you help them make that next step?
So it goes from very practical of making a profile on dating site,
Well, first of all, there's
encouraging
the
them.
rules. I want to back up.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so you start with the relation. You say, okay,
Yeah.
both of you seem good. This
Yeah.
seems like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's okay for you guys to try.
Yeah.
What are the agreements? How do you help
Well,
them make agreements?
so first we talk about the vision of, like I said, I asked them myself, what is open relationship for you? What would it look like? Is it emotional involvement? Is it just physical? How do you plan on staying safe? How do you plan on connecting with your partner afterwards? So still for me, it's all about the couple. I make sure that they have a tools of connection. And then we start making rules. For example, we say, okay, it's more situational basis. Okay, what happens if one of you has a date set and the other person feels half an hour before the date feels very insecure and very unhappy? Is it a deal breaker? Is it automatically, does it mean that the other person has to cancel a date, or can it be a conversation? So it can seem tedious, but it's nice to have this little agreements in place where people just also, it's a discussion, right? We talk in a session and we discuss all these things, and people may have different opinions, but the nice thing that they are currently in a session is that they usually don't start shouting at each other and they remain civil. And so then it's very quickly solved. Like they just, the ability to talk fully and to express yourself fully without being broken up by your partner, that already brings the conversation miles forward than having this loop of assuming that you know what the partner is going to say. And sometimes we write things down. So we have usually each one of my sessions is documented and each client gets a summary and exercises after the session. This agreement would be in that summary. So we write things down. And again, it's not set in stone. People make mistakes and it's as ethical as any other relationship, but it's consensual, but mistakes will be made. And sometimes people are afraid to disclose things and they hide things, and because it's scary, right? Even though you open it, sometimes and you don't know how much to say. You don't know, should I say if I like that person or will that hurt my partner? And so it's many things, many underwater stones, but we write an agreement saying, how much money can you spend on the dates? And that's a big thing, right? So usually for men, especially for men, because each family has a budget and you don't want it to hurt your budget. So you say realistically, how much money can I spend weekly? And each person gets certain allowance. And some couples agree that men should get bigger allowance because usually males are expected to pay on the dates. So it's a conversations, but it's very, very thorough. So how many dates can you have per week? Can you have sleepovers? What, should you have a shower when you come home? It's all the little things that we talk about that actually give safety to the whole experience. Imagine you would go on a trip Many times you want to look at the pictures of the terrain. You want to prepare. You want to think like, where am I going to sleep there? Where am I going to, how I'm going to get there? In essence, it's the same thing. It's unknown and it's big and it's scary. So what we do is we give it shape. The agreements give it shape. And after a while, for example, if agreement doesn't work, you see it's not working, we would bring it up again in the session and we would try to reframe agreements.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's amazing because it really is about protecting that bond while allowing each person to experience what they want to experience
Yeah,
within not hurting the other person or the bond. And
absolutely.
hurting doesn't include someone being scared. So, yeah, and that's true. I've heard people say they're scared when their spouse starts a new job. Right. So it's not the same, but it is allowing your partner to grow or experience things that you don't want to or cannot provide. And so that doing that safely, it's almost like you're giving them a safety protocol to then go skydiving.
Yeah. And that can be a beautiful thing. They can actually take pressure off your relationship because you just end up doing things that you like. Um, Another
And
nice
then
thing that
and you're with them throughout the process so they can keep
yeah,
coming
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you
and
can
it
kind
can
of
bring you
help
closer,
them.
right? So this can bring you closer because this you both, and in essence, going on a journey that you can, enjoy and get to know each other better. You start talking again about feelings, about fears, and about emotions. Where usually people come to me in their 40s, mostly having kids and everything, and you lose that part a little bit of talking about feelings, about what we like, what we don't like, and actually spending quality time together, because that is a must priority if you open up your relationship, and I insist on it. So another nice side effect that I noticed with all my couples, as what they report, is that you look at your relationship through different eyes. So when you go on a dates and when you have new relationship, you're a way nicer person. You're way more kind, agreeable. You're trying harder with your looks. And then you're thinking, hey, why did I stop doing that in my relationship? This is beautiful man next to me. I love him so much. And then you become more patient. You ask yourself, would I treat a new person like this? So it definitely has also plus sides. Yeah.
Yeah. And was that true in your relationship? So you guys did this without a coach or are doing it without a coach. You didn't start out as this was something that you've created after many, many years. So what are the because you can open your relationship for a time, close your relationship.
Yeah.
You can do
Yeah.
there's I mean, almost as many couples, there can be as many configurations, right? So I think the thing that we often forget, or at least people in my sphere forget, is that you are co-creating a relationship that works for both people. It can look however you want, as long as both of you are safe, healthy, and it's consensual. And so I really love the idea of just even having the conversation. And never ever having to do it. Like you said, it's not a sentence. It's not a thing you decide over a weekend. Like, we're going to open our
No,
relationship.
I also think you don't need to even if you want to open a relationship. Think open relationship also equals openness. So it's not about seeing other people or anything. I call myself sustainable relationship coach because I believe that you just have to constantly, as we grow and as we reinvent ourselves, we have to share that with our partner. Openness is simply talking just beyond, daily things and children and everything. It's just putting relationship first and saying, putting the other person first and saying, hey, how are you happy? How are you
Yeah.
feeling? Are you secure? Do you feel safe? How can I love you better?
Open relationship is about being open.
Yeah, it's
whether
openness.
whether or not it includes other people or not.
Exactly, exactly. It's just talking about the needs and about desires and about how we change it and how we see the future, how we see getting old. You may be surprised that your answers are different. Person next to you for 20 years may come up with completely random answers where you think like, hey, we're gonna grow old in a city, but they actually secretly hoping to grow old in a commune in the woods. And you're like, what? So it's a nice thing. It can be triggering because it could be different. from what you wanted, but it's a conversation. And my question is, would you rather have an okay, lukewarm relationship and not really know a person next to you, or would you rather take a risk and ask them these questions?
Yeah. And you said something which is actually really important. What is a sustainable relationship and what are we sustaining?
We're sustaining love.
Yeah, we're
We're
sustaining
sustaining connection. We're sustaining love. We're sustaining um
vitality, I think.
yeah, a vitality, connection in the sense that we're not connected to bring the other person down or stop them from evolving, but we hopefully connecting with them in a way that we support each other in growth and but at the same time, don't lose the eyesight of each other. We don't grow too much in the different directions, right? Support doesn't mean says, you do what you want. I don't care. It's actually caring, it's actually taking interest. And also I think people complain that the spouse doesn't take interest in the inner world. And I hear it from both sexes. And it just actually taking an interest in the person next to you. Not just, in the daily activities, but in how they perceive these daily activities. It's a big difference, right?
Yeah. And that's so beautiful because even the generation your parents came from, my parents came from, that was not even close to the goal. The goal was longevity. The goal was, how long have you been married? You make it to your 50th wedding anniversary. You've done a good job. Doesn't matter if you're both unfulfilled, had affair, whatever it is you've made, it's that time factor. And
If you look at parallels, our parents also had careers in the same company, and you would get the gold watch at your 50 years, so, before your retirement. And that was considered a plus, a sign of perseverance, a sign of character. And now, these days, many times people question if you don't take risks, if you stay at the same job, right? Do we need to rethink our relationships in that way? Probably not. We don't need to hop from connection to connection, right? Like people hop from job to job. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to think, what do we want? And I remind to my clients that this is actually a luxury problem, because when you start thinking about these things, usually you have your career sorted, you have your children already. When you're thinking about opening up a relationship or wanting more, it's because you have more. So you are in a very luxurious position
yeah,
already.
absolutely. And why not have a beautiful relationship where you can be open in yourself? That's is, I think, what relationships are evolving into is this allowing more intimacy, which is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about intimacy. We're talking about being intimate in the emotional landscape of our
Yeah.
partners. And that is not always taught, not always valued, not always, it's actually very scary. Some people can open their bodies before they can open their emotional world.
Yeah.
And so we are talking about intimacy, deepening intimacy, even within a long-term relationship. And so I love how you said that. Open relationship just means being more open.
And more open with yourself. It starts with
Yes.
yourself. You need to ask yourself, what do I need? I moved countries, I birthed children, I changed careers. And what do I need to fulfill me? What kind of relationship I want? What kind of people I want to be surrounded with? What do I want my sexuality to be? Life is so fleeting, and we just go through the motions. And as women, we put everyone else first. And I've been doing that as well. And sometimes you don't even know what you want. You don't have time to think. What is it that you want? What kind of relationship? Who are you? You kind of go with the same kind of memento from 20 years ago and you think, yeah, I'm the same person. But maybe you change. Maybe you want different things.
Yeah. And all of us, at least me, and you have a daughter, I have two, and we have the women around me, we want to do better for our daughters.
Yeah.
Not better because our
Yeah.
mothers did a bad job, but we watch
Yeah.
them suffer and lose
Yeah.
themselves often. And so knowing yourself is actually showing your kids how to have a more fulfilling life, potentially. And so again, without looking backwards and saying they did it wrong, we're deepening. We're deepening, and this is a beautiful process. And often when we live abroad, that deepening is not always, it's kind of part of the package
Yeah.
if you let it be. And so when you're learning different languages and you're in a new city, like you said, especially a city like Amsterdam, there's more openness maybe than people have been from. I love this idea of ethical and sustainable relationships, and sustainable meaning both people in the couple and every person in the family. So every person in the family thriving, including the mom and including the dad. And so how do you frame that for people? Because I see this debate a lot and I know where it lives for me, but I feel, so a lot of people will say, oh, I put my relationship first or I put my kids first. And there's very strong opinions on both sides. For me, I've always felt if you put the relationship first, everything else comes into balance. So you don't have to choose. But how do you conceptualize that for your clients who say, oh, I want to open my relationship. I'm so selfish, like getting rid of this.
Well, look, okay. So I put children first in the sense of practicalities. They're weaker, they have more needs. So you need to be tied to school year. So you cannot say, I'm gonna go with my boyfriend or with my girlfriends for 2 weeks if your partner cannot handle it during school year. So I put children needs first in a practical sense. But in emotional, they need to see you navigate life as a woman, and they need to see you almost not put yourself first, but not you can put relationship first, but many people interpret that as sacrifices. So putting relationship first, you sacrifice things for your partner, and that's a beautiful way to show that you put in relationship first, because it's relationship survives at all costs. And sometimes you show your daughters that means as a woman you may need to compromise if your husband wants an open relationship and you don't. Or you need to compromise if you want to be more free and you can't because of society, or you want to have a career, or society tells you you're going to be a bad mother. So it's almost having this open conversation with your children about the changes in life, and that it's okay. You don't fail just because you change your profession or you change your relationship status, or you priority is in conversations not just with your partner, but I believe with your children, and to make it really age appropriate, of course. But many times after people have open relationship, or even people just immigrate to another country, the question is, how do you communicate to the outside world? Because you're okay with wherever you decided, but how do you tell your children? How do you tell parents of other children if they see another man or woman in the house? It's scary for other people. How do you
Even if
communicate
they
that
see you out on
friendship?
a date, like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you are seen out on a date, because
ex-
every
yeah,
family will be different, right? So some people will share it with their kids, some people will not.
yeah,
Some people
yeah,
will let them have them in their house, some people won't. But you don't live in a bubble. Like if you have children,
exactly.
you might see someone out and about when you're on a date with another person, and
Yeah.
that might make things difficult. So how do you help people? First of all, they have to know their own boundaries, but then how do you help people navigate that?
It's difficult. You need to understand the risks that the second you start going on the dates, yes, there is risks that people will see you. And so you need to think, you need to think how it's going to hurt my career. If you work in a conservative sector, how is this going to affect my community if you're part of a religious community? How is it going to affect my family who may not understand it? And then you have to think, okay, do I want to have conversations with people? You may want to talk to your close friends. So, the opinion of people do matter. And then also some people choose to, tell the children, it also depends on age. If you have small children, you can say, well, Papa or Mama have friends, or special friends. When the children are older, you need to understand your child, and you need to understand if it's going to traumatize them, or are they going to be receptive? Are they going to be supportive? Am I teaching them something about relationships, or am I damaging it? So it's case by case. Everyone is differently sensitive.
Yeah, every
In
family gets to
general,
make their own decision, basically.
yeah, yeah. And I think people get really, really afraid. Parents get really afraid. Children get afraid because everyone is afraid of change. When people realizes that your relationship is solid, they see you day after day, holding hands, kissing, laughing, supporting each other. After some time, they really relax and they think, well, that's what they're doing. But they're not worried anymore because the proof is in the pudding. It's not what you say once or you show once, but what you show consistently to the outside world. And if they think, in people's perceptions, polyamorous people are crazy hippies that live in communities. And then they see somebody who they actually know for years, and it's a very sane person working in finance, but it's just how they choose to structure their relationship. You change your mind and you become yourself more open person, and you think, well, I'll be damned. But you don't change your opinion of that person. And the hardest thing is religious communities, because in some communities it can be a sin. But again, if you're part of very religious community, you do need to keep it a little bit under wraps. And it's again a consensual decision of a couple. They both agree that they open their relationship in a very specific ways that is safe for all of them and for their families.
So, safety for yourself, for your career, for your emotions, for your relationships. But I think that what you're pointing to is the same thing over and over again. The primacy of the safety of the people in the relationship is key. And once everyone sees that everyone's safe, everyone's healthy,
Yeah,
they're even more lovely to each other
exactly.
because they don't feel, and maybe the kids see that their parents are fine, or even maybe they're feeling more open to their kids even because they are able to experience life the way they really want to.
Yeah.
That gives you a lot of gratitude towards your partner. It gives you a lot of things. And so once people feel that, and that's why the work is so important to do ahead of time, because it's not just you, it's not just your partner, it's not just your
Yeah.
kids, it's everything around you. Luckily, we're part of an ecosystem, whether we want to be or not, whether you know a single soul in the city or not. And so that, I think that work that you're guiding people through is what makes it safe, it makes it sustainable, and it makes it so that work pays off in the end, right? It's beautiful. And even, like I said, someone can come speak to you about their desires. They're like, "Oh, I'm feeling like having an affair. I want to bring my partner in." They discuss that might even happen even if you never go on a single date.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're being more, would you describe it as being more, you hit a different level of honesty. Is that another way of putting it? Depth, honesty.
Yeah, so when you start talking, so for example, if you want to have an affair or your partner wants to have an affair or considers having an affair, if they don't talk about it, the likelihood of affair happening is very high, because for them it's or you have affair or you don't have affair. Also, what may happen, and I see it in many couples, that people choose to have an affair and the spouse finds out about it, and they are forced to make a choice very, very, very quickly. And if that connection would have had chance to play out, most likely they would not have chosen to go off and leave a family. So actually many families get broken up by this kind of volatile conditions where it's everything is very emotional, it's very negative, secretive, emotions are high. So basically what you're trying to do with openness, whether just talking about a concept, is to create stability. And it's all about your inner stability, your inner regulation of your emotions, and stability in your main relationship, stability in your other relationships, and then outside the world, you show stability. And stability brings calmness to
Yep.
everyone, because nobody likes the roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, even if you're in an unhappy marriage, it brings instability. And so that, yeah, it's such a beautiful paradigm that you're encouraging with this very triggering, for some people, these words are very triggering, especially people of a certain generation. I find myself in between the two. Like my parents were very traditional and I'm like open, like I'm open-minded. And so I've had friends have affairs. I've had friends have open affairs that are ethically non-monogamous. I have all sorts of people in my life, but what I can say is that this is the most humane paradigm for relating in a long-term relationship. And I think it's a skill we're not given. And so I think that what you're doing is helping people to get to know themselves better, be more of themselves, and more intimate in their relationship, whether they decide to open or not. And especially for people living abroad, you really have to. You really have to unlock new levels of communication, in my opinion, because there's big questions, right? Do we stay or do we go? A country? Which schools do we want our kids to go to? Yeah. Are we going to learn a language? How do we make friends? Because you're going to have to form a community if you've come from a highly supported place, you're going to have to form a community. What does that look like? Because forming a community can make one spouse really uncomfortable. And so these questions, these skills that you're teaching are so valuable, whether or not it's about opening your relationship. Because I would like to say you're already opening your relationship a little bit when you move abroad. You're
Absolutely.
completely changing the context of your surroundings, your support systems. And so doing it mindfully, I think is so humane. Like you said, sustainable and loving. So
And again, it's not for everyone. And also, when I personally opened my own relationship, I had friends saying to me, why can't you just why can't you guys cheat? It's and nobody knows, and don't ask, don't tell,
yeah.
and I would rather not know. I want to continue living how we live, and it's also an option, right? So there's a whole array of how you can have a relationship, but of course some are more volatile, and you have way more to lose if these things come to light. The results can be catastrophic, right? And your relationship can break anyway if you open it, if you close it, if with time, or it can be just as a facade, and there's no closeness behind it. So each person just in the end has to choose for themselves. Like, start with openness with yourself. Open relationship is open relationship with yourself. It's thinking, how do I want to live? I prefer not to know what my husband does. I don't ask him questions, or don't want to have this connection. What do I want personally for myself? Do I want to have an affair? Is this exciting to have an affair? Or do I want it to be an open? Or I don't care about that? Or, so openness starts with openness to yourself, and not, yeah, I really, I never like, I'm trying not to judge anyone. Also, to, if people choose to have affairs, they choose to have affairs. If they choose to live celibate life, they choose to do that. Like, I think, especially as women, we judge each other so much. And if we just support each other and be like, okay, hey, you're great, you're bisexual, great, you celibate, great, you together for 20 years, fantastic, you together for 2 months, awesome. I think we need to support ourselves and other women, and not to put ourselves and other women down.
absolutely. Absolutely. I could not agree more. I want you, if you could, to give us maybe 3 or 4 things, tips or things you'd want people to know if they think maybe they're in that place where they're like, I want to have an open relationship. This sounds like a great idea.
Okay, so first is to close your eyes and to think first for yourself, what would it look like? What as a little movie. Play it, who is it, a man, is it a woman, where would it be? And then do the same, imagining your partner would do that, and feel your body, feel where you have blocks, tensions, if there's something to work on, is it feel scary, why? And, so that's step one. Step two, really ask yourselves, what are the reasons that I am thinking of opening up my relationship? And there's no bad or good answers,
Yeah.
but
Especially
it's
when you're
good
doing
to be
exercise
aware.
for yourself, be as honest as you can.
Yeah, and it's good to be aware. You're thinking, okay, I just want to have sex with other people, or I want to have connections, or I want to learn salsa, or I just want to spend time platonically, have platonic connections, but they're meaningful and deep, and really invest time in them. And a third thing, I think, to just start reading books that are about open relationships, or relationships in general, or how to communicate, or go to a coach or therapy, because there's so much information out there. And when you read that, or when you talk to other people, really notice how things make you feel, because we feel with our body quicker than we realize things with our mind. So if you let yourself feel, you'll quickly learn what is right for you.
Yep. Yeah. And would you say that this is a journey, if you're thinking of this, when I would assume that it's better to speak with your partner as soon as you know.
So you do, yeah. So first you do this soul searching, because it's much easier to formulate things to your partner, to say, I want to go on macrame retreat with my girlfriends for 1 month, a year, or I don't know, something crazy, but it can be platonic, or it can be, I want us to become swingers, or I want to go to a sex party because I've never been, I've heard about it, or I would like to have another relationship. So when you formulate it for yourself and you feel like you make, so stability starts with yourself. You cannot go from volatile place or emotional place and expect stability in the relationship with another person. So when you established core clarity and stability with yourself, then you can communicate that in a nice, loving way to your partner. Say, hey, I've been thinking about sex party. What do you think? Um,
And that's the
of course,
beginning of the conversation. Yeah,
yeah.
that's not a conclusion. You're not saying I'm going to a sex party. Like,
No, no, no. You just say, hey, I want to share something with you. I hope you open to it. You also ask for if the other person is open to hear something like that. So, and then you say, well, I actually find other people attractive. Sometimes a guy in a line in a supermarket, or some my colleague, or I don't know, some fleeting person on the street, and that gets me thinking. Like, I might wanna like have sex with them. Do you have feelings like this? Do you ever fancy other people? I know we're married, but like, how do you see marriage? How do you see future? I mean, we're together for X amount of years. I mean, do you ever fantasize about anyone else? And then you talk about your needs. You go from your place, not like somebody doesn't allow you to do A, B, C, D, but more things you're curious about. And then you ask for opinion. And then if you really have difficulty communicating, you say, hey, this is important to me. You never threaten, you never say, I will leave if you don't do that. But you say, hey, it's important to me. I've been feeling like this for a while. Would you be open to go to counseling? Would you open to go to coaching?
and
Could we
it's
talk to our
important.
priest?
It's probably important that you say, I'm not going to act until we come together about this. I think it's
Yeah,
probably
and you have to
important
reach.
to make that clear in that
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
when you start
yeah.
bringing
So
your partner in. I will not be acting on any of this until
yeah,
we make
yeah, yeah,
come to a conclusion.
yeah, yeah. You
Yeah,
say absolutely.
together.
I don't want to cheat. I would never do anything to hurt you. I would never do anything behind your back. I love you so much. And you reassuring is very important. Like, I want us to work on, you frame it like, I want us to work on the relationship. That's why I'm not shying away from these things. I am here with you. I want to share this with you. I want to share a good and a bad. I mean, this is not necessarily bad, but I want to share all of me. And I want to be accepted. And I want to accept you. And I want to try to accept you. Some things, of course, are boundaries, right? So, and then it's a conversation, and reassurance is a very, very, very big part of any openness in general. You want to establish like, I don't want to leave you. I'm actually trying to make our relationship better. And B, you can always say no. They have to be in any suggestion, there has to be a place to say no. We all as women know these questions like, should we do Christmas in my parents' house? And you want to say no, but it's not framed as even a question. It's a
Yeah.
statement. But it sounds like a question, but there's no place to say no.
Yep.
And the second you say no, it's going to be like, well, what do you mean? So
Do you not love
everything we
my mother?
frame to our partner. Yeah, yeah. So everything we frame to our partner, we need to be prepared for a no, and we need to give it space for a no and say, but of course, if we hear no in the relationship all the time, that makes us think, okay, is this relationship that I want to be in? If you see the partner not trying to understand you or shames you for being open or thinks it's weird that you're opening up, it also tells you things, and sometimes people will react strongly, and then they'll come back, they'll have time to think, and they'll come back and say, okay, let's talk about it. So also you need to be patient, because you did all this inner work, but the other person didn't. And so
Yeah.
you need to give them space to start that work.
Yeah. And I think that there's an important thing here too, is that needs can be met there's needs that are essential and needs that are optional. And there are many, many different ways to meet needs, right? And so just because you're starting the conversation, that's why reassurance is so important, right? Like, I have this need or desire or fantasy or something that I've
Curiosity.
realized I really miss in a relationship, and I would love to figure out how to do that with you.
Yeah,
Uh,
with you.
and
With
yeah,
you. That's the main thing. Even if you go dating other people, you still do like with the
with,
person, you still
yeah,
connect, you still and of course you when people come to me, they also talk philosophically, with should I have one primary partner and then maybe others, or should it be all equal? And it's a very, very deep topic that is very situational, but in general, you should always make your partner feel like they come first, they're safe, they're loved, they're cherished, and you want them to spread their wings and you want to experience everything that life has to offer. But you're doing it together. You're going on this beautiful journey together. And the second is one person is kind of dragging along and the other person is the initiator, but it's not really such a joint curiosity. There can be many problems that will arise later.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the key, is that is why it's a more intense.
Yeah.
Nothing's
Yeah.
assumed. That's what happens, is it starts to become, you
Yeah.
actually
And
have
there's
to know
many
how to
triggers.
needs.
Yeah. And
Communicate
that
needs,
this is,
desires, fears, boundaries. Like, this
yeah.
is why
Yeah.
communication actually has to be sharpened instead of the other way
Of
around.
course.
Yeah.
And also not just communication, but patience and loving and understanding that in front of you, there's just this person who also not perfect, who will make mistakes, who's really trying. And to see this, to have this humility in yourself when you're boiling from rage, when you just, you're frustrated and it's very hard. It's almost like a Buddhist Zen practice, but it will bring you peacefulness inside. It also teaches you as a woman another very important skill is to be independent, because we depend on our husbands so much, especially as expats. When you open up your relationship, you also open up to possibility of another person. So suddenly someone younger, prettier, more successful, shiny new toy can come along that can raise many questions in yourself. Like, and then at some point you do want to see how autonomous am I? And it can be painful, but it can also be very, very place of growth where you learn how to, the router works because your husband is on the weekend away. You know, how bills work, because it's nice, it's empowering, you know?
Yeah, it can be. And I wanted to circle back to the really funny thing you said at the beginning, is often it's men who come wanting to open the relationship, and then women end up having more relationships because
Yeah.
of
Hmm.
this, at least
Yeah.
in the West,
Yeah.
this notion that potentially men would rather have less of responsibility in the relationship. And that, how do you help couples navigate that?
Just by kind of we role play and we kind of try to, I just basically ask them to close the eyes and I describe situations.
Yeah. But do you ever have couples go, or men go, never mind, I don't want to open anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 50% of the time, either even before it happens or when it happens, they cannot handle, because, you know, it's like apocalypse. We think we're going to have certain role if apocalypse comes, but we don't know. We don't know until the D-Day. That's why it cannot be very theoretical, because at some point you do have to get your feet wet. So, and that, and a lot of times people say, no, can't do it. No. Or they go to sex party and like, no, too much. I don't want this. Because also for ourselves, we think we want something, right? But then when we have it, we're like, no, this is too much. And then also, you know, with open relationships or polyamory, you have to regulate happiness, not just of one partner, but of two or three. It's way more talking about feelings. It's this calendars and making sure everyone's happy. And as a woman, we can fall into a trap of making everyone happy. So that's more people. So some people say, no, you know, I don't want it. I don't want it. So many people just focus on friendships and then having one partner or they say, no, you know what? I don't want any relationships. I want to be alone. And it's also fine, of course. So of course you learn so much about yourself in the process
Yeah.
or
Even in the
before.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
in the process of considering this, you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Nice. All right. You have given us so much today. I think we've had a very winding conversation, but what I really want people to come away with is there are people out there that have made the mistakes. They're there to guide you, and you're one of them. I love your work. I love your approach to it, especially for international people. I think that the stakes can sometimes be higher when you think of having an affair.
Yeah.
Visas are writing.
Yeah.
When you think of changing a relationship structure, the stakes are just higher on that relationship. Living abroad makes that relationship even higher stakes than it would be. And so I love that you have this practice where you can bring people in a safer way, maybe once the initial shock wears off of your partner bringing something like this up, really just a safe place to land and practice and coach. And so Tell people how they can find you, Victoria.
Well, I have a website, victoriaonkin.com, or my Instagram, v.onkin.
Nice. And we'll put that all in the show notes. And when people reach out to you, should they expect just to make an appointment, and online or in person? Is that right?
So I do coaching online, and the reason for that is that I integrate AI into my coaching, which is an amazing tool that gives me opportunity to do analysis of all the sessions. So after each 4 sessions, I do a pattern analysis that usually a human cannot detect. So it's a very useful tool that we can also notice some patterns that hold us back. And so the coaching is online, and usually people can book a discovery session with me for 20 minutes, which is free. It's a very easy booking system online. And this discovery session is there to make sure that we align in our expectations, because I cannot guarantee that I will save your marriage. People come to me very often too late. It's like a doctor having a stage 4 cancer patient come to them and say, I want to be cured. So sadly, I wish people would come earlier in the relationships, but nothing is wrong. They just want to learn how to communicate rather than coming with a massive suitcase of problems. So a discovery call is for that. And just to see how we bond, because we're going to spend time together. So it's very important that there's a trust and there's, some sort of affection, because when you share something so intimate with somebody, don't be repulsed by them. So we need to see how we gel.
Yeah, awesome. So anywhere in the world, anyone from anywhere in the world can
Anywhere in the
contact you?
world.
Yeah,
Anywhere in the
nice.
world. I work with a lot of clients from the States. Basically, I speak English. That's my limitation. So all the sessions are in English, and that's the only limitations that we have. So any time belt, yeah. And it has to be about relationships. So romantic relationships or not, but relationships. So not work or business or anything like that.
Got it. Thank you for your openness and all your wisdom that you shared with us today. I really appreciate it. I really hope this conversation helps people to think about their relationships and the
I
safety in
hope so
them
too.
and the
Yes.
vitality and what's
Yes.
possible when we get to know each other more intimately and ourselves. So thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for joining us at the House of Peregrine podcast. We are all about trying to help you live your best life abroad. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed our show. For the latest insights on living internationally, join us at houseofperegrine.com to find out how you can connect with our community. Let's craft our life story with intention together.